Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Yo. Set your affirmations, aspirations. I got shit to do, the aftermath of preparation. Good food, good mood, blood in circulation. One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration. And if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. I always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flaws, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Get breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.
Hey guys, hopefully everybody can hear me. I don't know if you could hear that or, oops, sorry, if we could hear that or not, but I could not hear coming out of my, good gracious, out of my, yeah, I thought it was muted. That's what I was thinking. Hold on a second. I'm at 650. Give me a second. I'll probably have to put it in a new. Okay. Let me just put it in a new. I don't know why it does that. but it doesn't. It does it every now and again, where it's completely, utterly muted. Let me see if this works. If not, then I won't play it. We'll have to play it some other way. Sorry, I should have checked. I should have checked everything before I started. This is the one. This is the one I wanted to play the most because I didn't know if anybody saw it. Well, a few people saw it this morning. Still not playing. It's not going to let me play. Huh. I wonder if it's doing that for all of mine. Okay, let's see. Use this one instead. Still not playing. All right, well, it looks like we're just going to miss that until it starts playing. I don't know what's wrong with it, why it won't share with us with audio. So let me just back this out and see if we can stop sharing and reshare with audio. I've got the volume down, but that's what I did yesterday. Let's see here. Good morning, by the way. I'm already having technical difficulties, as you guys can clearly see. It's great. It's absolutely great, I say. Let's see if this comes through.
We did a vigil for...
There we go. We got it back, guys. I just need to back it up now. There we go. Here you go, guys. Thank you for being courteous while we had technical difficulties this morning. Without further ado, it's nice to see you all here. For all the people that come here and love on here and try to advocate for this young boy, thank you. You guys are the best of the best here on TikTok. And I want to give a big shout out to all of my audience members, as well as my beautiful mod squad that does an amazing job at keeping everything nice and sweet up in the house, right? Up in the Casa de Bullhorn Coffee Clubhouse.
15-year-old boy, autistic boy that disappeared from his home in Tennessee, in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and has not been seen or heard from since. His father, Seth Rogers, has been absolutely moving heaven and earth to find out any information about his son or his whereabouts. We just recently did a vigil for Sebastian in Clarksville, Tennessee, this past Saturday. And if you guys haven't seen the vigil, please go over to my YouTube channel where you can see the entire vigil. It's on the video section of my YouTube channel. We did not run this live. And a big shout out to Dog the Bounty Hunter, as well as Nick the Hat, trying to bring Sebastian home and bring Sebastian home safely. They have been following a lot of leads from Oregon to New York, and even notifying ports of entry from the Canadian border and a lot of hotels in and around the area. This is super, super important, because without these two people's help, we would not have the reward that we have today. On August 26th, the FBI decided to provide a reward for any information related to the disappearance of Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. Many of you guys know the FBI never gets involved in these cases other than for resources and supportive measures, yet they're the ones that were able to get a $50,000 reward. And I don't think people quite appreciate how hard it is to get a $50,000 reward from the FBI for a missing child. This is what is really, really big. But then Dog the Bounty Hunter and Nick the Hat stepped into this case. Nick the Hat being associated with At Night Intelligence Agency. And of course, Dog the Bounty Hunter being a world famous bounty hunter of criminals, as well as missing people and people on the run. I don't know how many times over the last several years we've heard law enforcement actually reach out to Dog the Bounty Hunter because they had a fugitive on the run and needed help tracking him. I don't know how many countless times we've witnessed over the course of Dog the Bounty Hunter's career of capturing those very convicts that are on the loose or on the run. He's found them. He's tracked them. His team has tracked them. And now we're utilizing those resources and those experiences and all the stuff that he just provides, the resource that having Dog the Bounty Hunter provides, even nationally, bringing awareness to Sebastian Rogers' case. So we're very, very thankful and pleased for Dog the Bounty Hunter, as well as Nick the Hat, in this new reward of $175,000.
So just to let you know, if you guys would like to watch that video, you guys can catch it on my video side of the Bullhorn Betty channel. I dropped this morning. I did that on TikTok. You guys are wondering probably why we have PJ Betty in the video. It's because this little stinker right here woke me up at 3:30 in the morning. Yay. So if you guys are wondering why videos were dropping at like 4:30, 5 o'clock this morning, now you know why. Okay, we got a little sweetheart in the house that I apparently forgot to take potty last night before we went to bed. And at 3:30 this morning, she was absolutely full of energy and needed to go potty. And then after potty, she likes to play. So we were up quite early this morning and I have not stopped since. So, like, it's crazy right now. That's why. Yes, that's exactly why. It wasn't that I couldn't sleep. Well, I couldn't sleep because I had a dog licking and bouncing on me like a jungle gym. But, once I'm up, I get to work. So, if you guys would like to catch that live, it dives in a little bit of several cases that we've been covering that you guys may have missed. But it's great to see you. Many of you know that we're going to be getting started on the neighbors. We were watching Miss Bobby's interview, and Miss Bobby's interview, we kind of have broken into 3 parts just to listen to it because, oh, that's right. I gotta fix that. Gotta get the old X out of there. Don't like that, man. Yucky, yucky. Bad news. Bad news bears. Bad news bears. So we have, information. We have information, incredible sources that provided information early on. We have other people that are providing, still providing a wealth of information. Some of it's been things that have been known for a while, but I'm appreciative for those things as well, because let's face it, as we get further and further from the beginning of this case, when we got into it, a lot has happened. And when you put a lot of information in your cranium, some information falls to the wayside. And so it's one of those things where we try to figure out what's going on. We've got a lay of the land, so to speak. We know what the community looked like at night. We know what the community looked like during the day. We have more information about unknown factors in the case that were brought up during the interviews of multiple platforms as well as mainstream media. And we've dived into those claims. Some of those claims were job related. Could somebody have been at a job at 5:15 or was it 6:30? We determined in June it was definitely closer to 6:30, 6:45. We had Silvers on the scene that went a step further and not only spoke to somebody of knowledge, direct hand knowledge. We found out that the stepfather was at work from 6:30 to 11 when he was excused, and no one knew that his child was missing, which kind of bodes in, because when we look back into the case, we remember the reporter that made the claim that Chris asked them not to film the house. And so that question was asked in one of the interviews that the stepfather and mother had done with, I believe it was Smiley's World, where they asked him, did you scream at a reporter? And it was explained that no, there was no screaming or hostility toward the reporter. It was a simple request not to film the home. In everything that we do, in the many cases, especially child cases that we've covered, and that even on a very surface level, for many of us, that kind of behavior is a little off-putting, to say the least. So we're trying to figure out what was going on. And one of the topics of conversation is, could or would he have walked out of the house without shoes? An overwhelming, we had 634 people that voted on that. And it looked like overwhelmingly our audience does not believe that's a possibility. Now we have a new question in the chat right now, and if you guys have not, please consider doing the poll. And the poll is: do you believe Sebastian Rogers was overstimulated the day before he disappeared? And that's related to that past Sunday. So we're going to go over some of the stuff. We're going to kind of get educated on what this overstimulation is, because if you guys remember, I had literally no clue. I have a good understanding now, but that's from the beautiful audience that we have. Hundreds and hundreds of parents had reached out to me, hundreds. The level of emails that I fielded were crazy, to say the least. Absolutely insane. So I'm very thankful and very, very pleased that I got some good understanding of what was going on. I actually have some questions that haven't been found from my research. Nothing. Where was the step grandfather the morning Sebastian reported missing? Wasn't with the grandma at the grandson's house, in my opinion. Sorry, hit the wrong one. Sorry. That is a great observation. The answer is I don't know. I can concur that based upon everything we've heard in the public, even from the neighbor, even Miss Bobby, she identified Seth, the mom, and the step grandma in the front yard. Those were the three people that were identified, and she even expressed that she didn't know who they were at the time. But now with this media, with everything being in the media and her now being able to know who they are, those were the people that were seen at the house that morning. So around, I think the person that drove by, what would that have been, before 7:30? That's all I remember, before 7:30 in the morning. So I'm unsure. That's a great question. Nobody has I don't think any of us. I don't recall even in the past. We've talked about this case so much, but I don't think that's ever been brought up. So I don't know. In all fairness, I did get a membership. Oh well, thank you, love. Thank you. Twins from Michigan. It's nice to see you. Thank you so much. God bless you. I see everybody in here, my beautiful mod squad. It's nice to see you. I was why do I keep hitting these things? There we go. Oh, thank you. Dreaming of blue skies and sandy beaches. I would love to as well. I got blue skies, but my sandy beaches are up on my roadways. I'm just playing. They did move the sand back to where it belongs. Busted Flush says, I was a classroom teacher with 5 students that were autistic or on the spectrum. I had to watch them carefully for overstimulation, going to a play, clapping too loud, too lost it. Yeah, exactly. Now, Sebastian, in all fairness, was a high functioning autistic boy. From my understanding, from what I knew about or thought I knew about this child early on in the case is much different than what I know about him now. It sounds like he was, what I've learned through this research and this journey, that many autistic children are very, very smart. And they are, however, their behavior or their intellect is younger. So they have, their bodies are more grown than their mental capacity. It sounds it's very confusing at first, and I'm probably not explaining it the best when it comes to it, so I apologize, but I know my audience will be correcting this stuff in the chat soon enough. So at the end of the day, they are very, 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 very smart children and do a lot of do a lot of things. They think a lot outside of the box. But one thing that I can tell you about them, and I've said it over and over again, is none are identical. They don't act identical. Their behaviors, yeah, they may have some commonalities, but for the most part, there's not really a whole lot of, a cookie cutter when it comes to autistic children. So some might like shoes, some might not like shoes. Some might like fruit, some may not like the texture of fruit. Some might like one thing while others don't like another. However, one thing that I've found that has been known, at least through my research, is the one thing I can attest to, is it seems like all of the children that are autistic or on the spectrum really enjoy and engage in video games. So, in my opinion, video games are very, very important to autistic children or children on the spectrum, quite frankly. So, I have a question. When the mom was looking outside with the neighbor, was she on the phone with the stepfather? Well, you've got as much information as I have about that. I don't know. We'll have to listen to Terry Lynn's interview with Miss Bobby. There's two interviews with Miss Bobby, and so I'll have to listen to the one with Terry Lynn, and maybe we'll do that together, just to see if we can garner any additional information that may not have been asked in this particular interview. There is that possibility. So at the end of the day, let's get back to Miss Bobby. We're advocating for this beautiful boy behind me. His name's Sebastian Drake Rogers. And again, if you're not familiar with this case, or you're just seeing me for the first time, this is the case of a high-functioning 15-year-old autistic boy that disappeared from his home in Hendersonville, Tennessee, and so far has not been seen or heard from since. It's very, very concerning for a lot of people it's very concerning for his family, first and foremost, but more importantly for the strangers that are out there looking for him and out there advocating for him. He's been missing for a really long time. Statistics are stacked against this case at this moment, but we're still going to try to provide some semblance of hope, as this boy needs to be found and brought home safely. We don't know where he is. He could be anywhere in this country, or he could literally be, in the community where he disappeared from. We don't know where Sebastian Drake Rogers is. All we know is how we feel. All we know is what we've seen and what we've heard. All we know is the limited amount of facts that were provided to us by law enforcement or people that give us information on this. There's no public information officer that we can call or talk to. We've already at least in our opinion, in this channel's opinion, been deceived by law enforcement already in this case, especially when it comes to the light video and the fact that they tried to convince the world that this light video is a garbage truck. This is the person that had an opportunity to preview the video and says it's not a garbage truck. And as a matter of fact, the garbage truck didn't come in until almost 2 hours later. So there was a garbage truck in this community that day, but not at that time. And you could clearly see when it came into the community. So, what do you do? So let's finish up the interview with Miss Bobby, and then we'll get on to the topic of conversation about the overstimulation of Sebastian Drake Rogers. Do we believe it happened? If so, do we believe that he had problems sleeping that night? And let's just walk down that little segment of the story.
But I can't confirm it because I had not talked to the neighbors that lived next to them that were the ones that said that. I don't know for a fact they said that. But my thing is, and again, I'm not trying to put anything blame on them at all because I don't know them, don't know anything about their personal story, have no idea. I can't confirm any of this, but I just know that I'm surprised that the mattress has been in the garage that long. I mean, if the mattress is for your child, wouldn't it have been put away or put in the, why is it still in the garage and not in the child's bedroom?
Busted Flesh, we will, if you can, when we get to that aspect, when we start talking about the sleeping patterns, if you'd ask your questions again, because it's going to be too far up on the food chain for me to see it or answer it. So that's just FYI.
Room. And two, the daughter, Faith, I don't ever remember her being there. Like, if she was there, I mean, maybe once, one summer. I mean, I'm just surprised that she would have a brand new mattress if she's not there very much. I mean, I don't know. Maybe she didn't even have a mattress, and that's the first one.
You spoke earlier about a silhouette and a light inside.
Oh, yeah.
The house. Talk a little.
This is the interesting spot. I know many of you guys have heard me talk about how, this is just, there was odd things going on, in my opinion, inside the house as well as outside the house. Something happened inside the house prior to the lights outside the house. And I even talked about the silhouette. This is where the silhouette comes in. This is where the odd, in my opinion, the odd behavior inside the house is exhibited. It's with the lights going on and off. It's with the movement inside the house to the back. It's with somebody coming up and looking out the window and then the house going dark. These are just weird. And when they describe dark, a lot of people now we don't have Miss Bobby here interviewing with us, obviously, so we can't stop her and ask her follow-up questions or anything like that. So we don't have a way of asking, did it look like the breakers were kicked? I know that was the number one thing that many people in our audience envisioned when she talks about this. I truly don't know. You're just going to have to take her words for what they are, because we have no way of asking her. But this is what she has to say.
A little bit about that. Some people were asking that in the chat. What's that all about?
Okay, so if I go back to day one and kind of rehash a little bit, trying to make this as short as possible, the neighbor close by that saw Katie out front on the way to taking her kids to school, she was the one that called me. Friends, I'm good friends with her. She's the one that actually called me and told me what was going on. And said that I said, well, what happened? And she said, well, I went and asked Katie what happened, and she said, and this is where the story gets totally misconstrued. I don't know. Again, third party, I'm hearing this from another third party source. So, I trust this lady. She's a good friend of mine. There's no reason why she would lie. But she said when Katie, they had gotten home from Texas Roadhouse, took the trash out, so on and so forth. Sebastian was in his room. She was in the kitchen, I guess, getting, whatever done. And from her house, she's close enough to where she can see from the Ring camera, like the lights inside, because it's dark. So, I mean, if you have lights on, you can see it. And so she said that she could see the lights in the house around 10 or so. Then Katie told her that Sebastian was in her room. She was in the kitchen. She said, you need to go to bed. And he said, okay. And she goes in the living room and does whatever, watches TV. She says she was studying. I don't know, whatever, doesn't matter. She was in the living room for whatever reason. And she told my neighbor that she fell asleep. And
Say that again.
This is what I feel, okay? Because we couldn't figure out why they were on the phone 3 hours, but they had to interject this sleep in, that she was slightly falling asleep, so to speak. And it's because she had already told people she had fallen asleep on the couch. So I'm sure that when law enforcement checked the phone records and said, well, you told us you were sleeping on the couch at 10 p.m., but we have a phone call for a significant amount of time with your husband that you were on the phone with while you were sleeping. And I think that they had to incorporate that in with this phone call. And now you get a phone call that, oh, I was studying, I was sleeping, and the husband had to wake me up, scream in the phone and tell me, wake up and put the dogs away. I think that's how that all got, weird, because I think at the beginning that may have been her only story. As I told my son to go to bed, I was in the kitchen. I told my son to go to bed. He said, okay, good night, mom. Good night, puppies. He went off to sleep. I took the time to study and fell asleep on the couch and woke up at midnight. And now you have to incorporate a phone call in with that now. I think that that's why that seems so, odd. Like it doesn't fit somehow. And we're all scratching our heads saying, what? And a lot of us keyed on that. Like, how are you falling asleep while on the phone? And at a very specific time, 10 p.m., And then we're finding out, wait a minute, there's a phone call at 9:43, only 17 minutes before you were falling asleep. It doesn't math right. And I don't understand, it's just a very confusing moment in the story. And I think it's holding us a lot up, and it doesn't sound normal. People don't get on the phones with people for significant amounts of times, and people don't stay on the phone when you're sleeping. When you're sleeping, you're not talking, right? I mean, you're not talking. You're having no conversation. Who's going to stay on the phone for 2.5 hours with no conversation? I think that's what's going on in my mind. When I'm hearing this and I'm trying to figure it out, that's kind of, where my mindset is in all of this. So this is where it gets kind of confusing. I'm going to back it up just a little bit so we remember what Miss Bobby said. But that's just, I think that's why it's become convoluted right at this moment, because this is the things that she was saying up front before they pulled these records. Oops. Up 1, 2, 3.
She was studying, I don't know, whatever, doesn't matter. She was in the living room for whatever reason. And suppose she told my neighbor that she fell asleep and
Say that again. You broke up. Say it again. You broke up.
This thunk, and she yelled across the house and said, Sebastian. And he said, yes, mom. And she said, are you okay? He said, yes, I'm fine. I'm good. Go to bed. And she said, okay. So she gets up, and my neighbor said you can actually see his light go off, her walking across the house, her light go off, and then a silhouette come up to the window for a minute. And then everything just goes black.
What time was that again? Because you cut out.
I'm sorry. I know my son was calling me. Okay. So she woke up around 11:30 is what she told my neighbor, that she woke up about 11:30, and apparently he was still up. But I find it odd, because my thought is, and again, none of my business. I just think, okay.
I just want to state that not at one time out of anybody that's interviewed outside of Miss Bobby has alleged that he was up at 11:30, which is a little odd and bizarre to me, because this is boding to be the lights were going on and off, from my understanding, until about 11:30. So it wasn't like the lights stayed on from 9:30 to 11:30. The understanding from the neighbor is they went off and on several times in that time frame. I don't know if it was 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. I don't know. Just several was what the information I received.
Okay, put yourself in that position. If I have a child who's got special needs and I hear a thump, I'm going to walk into my child. No, let me put it this way. My kids are all very healthy and normal. I'm very blessed to have very healthy kids. But if it's 11 o'clock or 11:30 at night and my kid has to be up at 6 the next morning, I'm going to be in their room yelling at them and taking their electronics away and telling them, go to bed now. That I would be walking in my kid's room. even where my kids are now, healthy and average children, whatever, no problems. If I had her thunk, I'm probably still going to go in their room and ask, like, what in the world was that? I wouldn't just stay, but hey, maybe she trusts him. Maybe she thought it was no big deal. I don't know, whatever. But that's what she told my neighbor. And then she goes to bed.
11:30 though. See, that information is not really out there. We keep hearing 10 p.m. kind of deal. Put them to bed. Hear the thump. Are you okay? Good night. 10 p.m.
Right.
But this is what she told a neighbor.
That's right. That's right. And when I asked
So that's a problem there, because this was the first time we realized how much different the stories could potentially be that were spoken to law enforcement, because we'd have to assume that she would have spoken the story right there to the neighbors in front of law enforcement, which would most likely have been her statement with law enforcement.
my neighbor, I call it. So she told me,
Hey, good night. 10 p.m.
Right.
But this is what she told a neighbor.
That's right. That's right. And when I asked my neighbor, I called. So she told me this Monday. And then when the sheriff's office came by our house to do the same door knocking thing and walking around and whatever, I asked the sheriff, I said, let me ask you a question. And he's like, what's that? And I said, I know early on investigation, they actually were talking to us. Like day 1 and 2, they were talking to us. So they were giving us information. They were telling us kind of what they were going to do and whatever. And then after about a week of it, they just shut down and never would talk again. The day that the TBI came in, that was it. No more discussion. It's shut down. We're not talking about it. You're just going to have to be in the dark. So, but this day 2, when the sheriff's office came in, no, I'm sorry, the state troopers came in. Still don't know why state troopers got there. Haven't figured that one out yet. I don't know why state troopers would be there. But state troopers came in. Actually, they came into my driveway because they were rinsing their shoes off. They had gone into the construction area and his boots were all muddy. And so he and my son were rinsing his shoes off. And I looked at him and I said, let me ask you a question. He's like, what's that? And I said, if you'd fallen asleep in the living room and your kid walks out the front door, wouldn't you have heard that? And he was like, not only would I have heard that, but I would have jumped up with my gun in my hand to figure out who's coming in my house.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing is, like, she falls asleep on the couch and her kid just walks out the door. But then when I asked my neighbor about that again, called her the next day, I'm like, okay, explain this to me. This is what you said. I don't understand that. And she said, oh, well, she woke up and then heard the thump and that kind of thing. So I don't know.
Yeah, it's just, it goes with all that in the evening time. At the same time, like you said, no evidence that any neighbors or anyone seen that he actually returned home that day. And then we also have those lights. It's just a mystery in a sense, because those mysteries. Someone asked it. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say those were not trash trucks.
I concur. But why did authorities say it doesn't have any evidentiary value?
I asked that when I called the lead detective, and I flat out told him that I know the neighbor. I've seen the video footage from the very beginning before it was edited. She told me with her own mouth, looking at it herself, there are 2 separate occasions, car, then truck. Why is that? We've had it. He argued with me and told me that he had it broken down. The Secret Service looked at it and they confirmed that in fact it was a trash truck. And I said, I'm telling you, it was not. He said, well, I'm not going to say I'll argue with you. I was like, okay.
Wow. Somebody said in the chat, any video footage of Katie searching for Sebastian that morning? Like, do they have any, since you have a neighbor that has a Ring camera, did any cameras pick up Katie actually out there searching that morning before?
If she, oh, you mean before all the police got there?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the neighbor that was leaving to go take her well, actually, the neighbor's camera did pick up her walking around her house.
Really? So she walked around her house?
Yeah, because in the neighbor, if you're looking to her house, the neighbor to the left of them, that the wife came out and was actually looking. There's like a little like a wood door underneath the house. What do you call that underneath the house? The crawl space. They actually opened up that door and were looking in the crawl space together. And so they were looking. But as far as outside of the neighborhood, I've never seen them. And they've never, no, not that I'm aware of. I mean, I asked my kids, and my kids said they had never seen her, never seen him. They did see Seth was out there a couple of times with everybody. He was at the command post. I have a good friend that was there in the command post, and she confirmed that he was at the command post. But I asked her, I said, did you see Katie or Chris or the Bowersox? And she said, no, never saw any of them. But then again, she said, but I mean, law enforcement did ask them to stay home in case he came home or called. So there's that.
Do you think law enforcement exhausted the whole area? Like, do you think they did a thorough search of the entire neighborhood and the streets along Long Hollow Pike and in the school? Do you think they?
Oh yeah. I definitely. I mean, I watched it with my own eyes. They were deep in. They were climbing in the trenches and looking in the sewage areas. And then they had dogs everywhere. They had drones everywhere. The question is, what are they doing with whatever evidence they collected, and what are they doing with the surveillance cameras? Because what I'm told that neighbors saw, they're denying.
They're denying.
Yes.
Why? Why is that?
Exactly. I don't know. That was what I asked. I have no idea.
See,
I don't understand.
What I find interesting, Miss Bobby, is, you know, I was up there, a week and a half later, and then we were searching on that federal property, and there was a dog hit, and law enforcement didn't even go out there to look at all. It's as if they didn't even care that there could be. I would think that they would look. It seems like they've already made up their mind or have a conclusion of what happened to Sebastian.
That is exactly how I have felt since the first week, literally the first week, within day. I mean, and a lot of people would get on Facebook and, like, you know, belittle our neighborhood and yell at us like, why aren't you guys out looking? And why aren't you guys have signs? And why don't you have, if I was in that neighborhood, I would flood it with green. And yeah, but you haven't been violated, and you were a part of this where you had hundreds of cars a day driving up and down and taking videos and pictures of your house and stopping and asking you questions, and the news reporters being out front of your house. And you don't understand where we are, and we just want to just have some peace and some privacy. We are looking, we're out there, we're asking questions, we're talking to each other, we're on social media, we handing out flyers, whatever. We're just not, why do we need a sign when we're in the neighborhood? I mean, we live here, for heaven's sakes. Why do we need a sign? I mean, we know what's going on. If you drive through here, this neighborhood belongs to him. Why do we need a sign to say, look for him? But anyway, I feel like from the very beginning, it was a massive search effort. But I just don't understand what they did with, if they found anything, what they did with it. Why are they trying to act like the footage, did they find anything on the footage? From what I'm being told from my neighbors that saw stuff on the footage, and I asked them and they want to deny it, they want to argue with me. Why are they? And then when the TBI came and actually walked into my house, sitting in my living room couch, and interviewed me, and I told them what I had heard and whatever. And then after that, he gave me his card and said, oh, and I promise you, I had 12 people every day for about 3 weeks from random places. I'm talking Canada, I'm talking UK, I'm talking Hawaii, Puerto Rico. They were trying to get into our private group. Why do you need to be in our private group? Why do you need to be in our neighborhood group?
Gotcha.
Just wanting to know stuff? I don't know. But I mean, we had they were coming out of the woodworks trying to get a piece of the information. But they just shut down. And every time I would send the TBI agent, I sent him the story about what happened to my son and I, and said I had it on, video, whatever. And I said, do you want to see this? And, he didn't even respond to me. He didn't even respond and say, I will let you know, hold on to that. Nothing.
Wow. Let's listen to that again.
Video, whatever. And I said, do you want to see this? And, he didn't even respond to me. He didn't even respond and say, I will let you know, hold on to that. Nothing. I didn't even get a response from him.
Weird.
I called.
it seems as if they already know something, and everything else in their mind is irrelevant. Weird.
That's how I felt. That's how I feel. I can't prove it. I mean, I don't know for sure, but that's how I feel. And that's what a lot of us feel like. I mean, a lot of us feel like I had 4 or 5 of my neighbors come over to my house one day, and we sat in my house and talking about all this and kind of sharing stories and stuff of what we feel. And we all feel like something is going on. Something isn't right.
Miss Bobby, somebody in the chat asked
Something
if
isn't right.
when you had that neighborhood vigil for Sebastian, were the Proudfoots invited?
Oh yeah, it was all over our Facebook page.
So they knew.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, if they were and we had planned it a week before, so it's not like it was last minute, throw it together. It was, matter of fact, one of the neighbors that helped me organize it, she actually had posted it on her profile, like just on her as a posting, and just said, I'd love to have a vigil. Let me know if anybody is doing one. And I messaged her and said, hey, why don't we do this in our neighborhood? That way the family can come as well, and it can just be our private neighbors. And she's like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea to me. So I put it on the Facebook page as a post. I tagged her in it, and I said, hey, this is what's going to happen. This is where we're going to be. And then several people posted asking what time. We kind of kept going back and forth about what day, what time, and whatever. So did we go to their door and knock on their door and personally invite them? No, but we didn't do that with anybody. And we had a big group show up.
And they would have, they knew it, one was existing. Instead, you said they brought 2 representatives, family members.
That's the other thing is that's the other thing is, for a fact they knew because they sent the family.
Yeah. What did the family say? Like who the people that you said that came? Uncle and aunt, right? Uncle and aunt, they said?
Yes.
What did they say anything? Did they talk? They
didn't really talk much. They just kind of stood there and listened to us, introduce ourselves. And we went around the circle. It was quite a big circle. We went around the circle, and everybody, said their prayer and whatever. And then afterwards, we just kind of said, hey, do you guys need anything? And we said, do we need food? Can we set up a food train for you? Or, is there, do you need anything? And they both said, oh, we've got a lot of support. We're good. We're fine. Don't worry about us. We're good. We got plenty of support.
Does somebody asked in the chat, does the Proudfoots have security? Did you guys know if they had, because Katie worked at Brinks, right? Or Brinks security system?
That was the very first thing I asked my neighbor when she told me that Sebastian is on the spectrum. And I said, hold on a minute. Doesn't she work for Brinks? And she said, yes. And I said, she has a special needs child. She works for Brinks. Does she not have security or locks or some kind of like a safety, something to keep him from coming out? And she said, not that I'm aware of. Now, the people before them, I do not believe they had security. They were elderly couple, so I don't even know if they cared. But apparently they didn't, because then Brinks came afterwards and installed. And I know that for a fact because she called me and said, well, they're getting security now. And I think Chris said that was because they felt like they were being threatened and all that kind of stuff, which I can't prove or deny, whatever. That's up to them.
I think it's all a charade for sympathy and excuses for their behavior. That's just my opinion on the situation, but I'm not allowed to have one according to Sumner County. We'll see.
And that's their business. But from what I understand, they did not have anything before that.
So, interesting. Very, very interesting. Has the Proudfoots been back at their home? Like, are they there?
She has been. I think she went back to work because she's been home and her van comes and goes. I think Chris came in one weekend. I don't know, but I've kind of just stopped. Like I would drive by once every, like maybe once a week just to see, if they were there, because they were there. And it was just like, and Katie's right. I heard her say that they were trying to leave to kind of give us a break because we were getting overwhelmed. We were all.
Oh, don't know what just happened. My computer just went, this is weird. My computer just died. I don't know why. Let me see if I can pull it up on here. Yeah, that was weird. That was super, super weird. The whole computer just died. mean, it is awfully hot, but I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Maybe it does. I don't know. That is odd. All right, give me just a second. Let me find what I was just watching. History. I don't know how to find my history on the regular app. Let's see. There it is. We got it. Give me just a second. All right, we'll put it on this one. Hopefully it works. I don't have any problems. I kind of like it on the other computer, but for whatever reason, it's not working. Okay.
She went back to work because she's been home and her van comes and goes.
You guys
I
can hear
think
that,
Chris
right?
came in one weekend. I don't know, but I've kind of just stopped. Like I would drive by once every, like maybe once a week just to see, if they were there because they were there. And it was just like, and Katie's right. I heard her say that they were trying to leave to kind of give us a break because we were getting overwhelmed. We were all getting very upset and very overwhelmed with all the traffic and stuff. And, I do appreciate her saying it for recognizing that. However, I was really shocked because I felt like that if my kid was missing, I don't want to say I would handle it differently because I don't ever want to be put in that situation, and I don't want to make karma come after me. But I can't imagine leaving my house if my child was missing.
Yeah, no, I mean she's been called out by that. I mean, she's claiming that
Yeah.
she can't wait for him to come into the door, Bubba, and
Right. But I'm not her.
Over to
I'm not
Mississippi.
her, and I can't. I'm not gonna say that she did the wrong thing because I have no business saying that. I'm just surprised. I do appreciate the fact that she did recognize that we were getting overwhelmed with traffic and whatnot. So I do appreciate that. But and we were, but I would just think that maybe Chris goes back to work and she stays there just in case. But everybody handles things differently, and if that's what she felt like she needed to do, then who am I to judge that?
But they haven't, since this incident happened, they really don't come out at all, interact with anybody that you know of.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've seen them interact with a neighbor very close to them a couple of times, be out talking to one of the neighbors, but I have not seen them out talking to anybody else.
There's rumors
like I said,
there's rumors that they might be moving. You know anything about that? Have you heard? Is there?
I've heard that so many times, and there's no confirmation of that.
I don't remember when this was actually aired, and I won't be able to until after we end and I make it smaller again. But this was many, many, many months ago, and people were saying that they were going to be selling their house at the end of June. Well, clearly we're in November. No home has been sold thus far. So I'd have to say, if it was a thought, it wasn't a thought that ended up happening.
Interesting.
I've asked we have a couple of realtors in our neighborhood, and I've asked them, and they've not. It's like I have not heard any confirmation of that.
Has one more thing, has the detectives or authorities ever go back to their house, like in certain time, like maybe like a week or 2 weeks after Sebastian went missing? Have they ever returned to the home?
Oh yeah, they came back. What was it, week 2 or 3? They came back and basically started it all over again.
So this is actually where I truly believe that if they did forensics, this was the time that they would have done forensics, because it's my understanding that the parents weren't at the home and they did what was this reenactment, what was dubbed the reenactment, where they left certain doors. They wanted to see what was being picked up on the neighbors' cameras and things of that nature. I believe if the forensics were done in the home, which I do believe there were forensics done. To what extent, I'm unknown. And if they're waiting for forensics, guys, I will let you know forensics takes a long time to process. Okay. Even in all of our new advancements in DNA and all this other stuff, there is a process that they must go through. And there's people ahead of them, so they get, unless it's a, a major thing, they'll process certain things if there's a priority there. But when you're doing a forensics of a home, and especially if it's over, a month or two, there's no urgency or priority there. Even if they put a priority on it, it still has to be cataloged in the order of the other priorities. So it could take literally, I remember we called the state attorney or the district attorney in Kylan Schulte and Crystal Turner's case. Those are the two married women that were that saw Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito have the fight out in front of this coffee house in front of the Moonflower Co-op, and they witnessed that. So there was a lot of belief that Brian could have been, there unaliver, so to speak, and that wasn't the case. But trying to figure out where I was going to go with this. I'm running a blank here, but the bottom line is that there are things that do happen.
Started the searching all over again, and they came back. What was it, week 2 or 3? They came back and basically started it all over again.
That's right. And so I was talking about the district attorney. Sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought there. But the district attorney 9 months later told us that the forensics haven't came back from their campsite yet. That was 9 months later. I believe it was a few more months after that, the forensics did start coming back in, but it's not right away. It's all choppy. So they get this forensic item back and the report on this thing. And, depending on how many items, they don't process those all together. They have them, they're in their system in order, and they're usually numbered. So they go pick up their number. They don't know what case it is until they get to it. And that's kind of how the process goes. So if this was taken, let's say 2 to 3 weeks afterwards, I mean, it could take literally up to a year anniversary before they start receiving anything back from the forensics. So they may just be waiting to get some results because they're at a dead end and they need something that's going to be a little nugget that they may be able to get a subpoena or a search warrant or something like that for. But right now, I feel forensically, they are handicapped because until the forensics starts coming back in, and usually these forensics are done by either the state or the FBI, and it's my understanding it's potentially the FBI. And while they have better facilities and a lot more employees, they take on, they're a resource for a lot of police departments around this country. And, quite frankly, they get clogged up. And that's just the reality of it. That's what takes so long. Even though we have DNA that can come back very quickly now, there's a lot more that goes into processing the forensic evidence that they collected. And again, it's going to be a little while if that's the case.
Started the searching all over again, and they also reenacted the whole scene, and they started at 10 o'clock Sunday night ish. Was it something like that? Sunday night, going into the early the next morning to see if they could kind of retrace each one of the steps and everything that happened.
And I have to be honest with you also, is that whenever this reenactment thing was discussed, I never thought, it was at night. And even though they don't typically do forensic testing at night, I don't see how they if they had an opportunity to get the forensic testing done, I don't see how they wouldn't have done it. But again, we don't. They haven't told us anything. So even the forensic testing is an assumption. And I'd like to know definitively whether forensic testing was done, and not by a reporter that won't put the sheriff or the representative of Sumner County or this case on the record as to saying it. I don't like listening to reports, even from mainstream media, because mainstream media will tout whatever they can. And not only that, we've been asking for months from Nick Barris, has there been forensic testing done? And he won't respond in a public post. He will only respond individually to people and say, are you talking about the house? Then yeah. What does that mean? No information related to the forensics done, whether they did the inside or the outside or both. It's just very vague and just unprofessional. I mean, if you're going to tout yourself as an investigative reporter, investigate the damn reports. Just saying. Is that too much to ask?
Type of deal? Or
Yeah.
Interesting, but nothing seems like, well, got their evidence and got something out of that, possibly.
If they did, they're not telling us.
They're not. How's the neighborhood now?
I think
let me listen to that again. Hold on. Let me rewind
getting
that.
better.
But nothing seems like
the next morning to see if they could kind of like retrace each one of the steps and everything that happened.
Type of deal? Or
yeah.
Interesting, but nothing seems like, well, got their evidence and got something out of that, possibly.
If they did, they're not telling us.
They're not. How's the neighborhood now?
I think it's getting better. I mean, I'm noticing a lot of neighbors are getting out more and walking dogs again and talking. And I think people think that we're all like huddled together talking about everything that's going on. And it's not like that at all. I think we're all just trying to stay out of it, trying to give them their space and kind of stay away from everything. And we just don't, I know for me, I don't want to get into.
Hey, True Crime Buzz, or Crime Time Buzz. It's nice to see you. Yes, I do. It's bullhornbetty@gmail.com, bullhornbetty@gmail.com. Thank you for being here. Love your work. Love your work.
Trying to stay out of it, trying to give them their space and kind of stay away from everything. And we just don't, I know for me, I don't want to get into their personal business. I just don't want to be that neighbor that's all like super nosy and thinks that she knows everything, because I don't know what happened. I don't understand. This kid did not just vanish. He just didn't vanish.
But does any neighbors think it was a kidnapping, or like think their children are in danger?
So that was the very first thing I asked on Wednesday when the TBI came and sat down with me and talked to me. And I looked at her, I said, I get that you guys are being super quiet about this because it is still an investigation. However, if this kid was kidnapped, don't you think you might want to tell us so that we can kind of lock our kids up and, be safe or whatever? And she, instead of her, and I guess is, again, part of the investigation, she said, well, you should always do that.
That's interesting. Yeah, they have a responsibility. I mean, if one of their theories is Sebastian got kidnapped, and they never said Sebastian was kidnapped.
But there was there were no cars that came up their street and then left up their street and left. The only car that was ever seen was the one that was on Kellen, that parked on the corner of Stafford and Kellen for about 3 or 5 minutes, where the flashlights came towards it, backed up and left. And then the trash truck, and then Katie's SUV, and then the police, or then the school bus, and then the police. So there was no other car that ever drove up Stafford.
Was it a car that the lights went to?
I think she meant vehicle, but everybody uses car interchangeably with vehicle and stuff like that. But that's pretty powerful. I want you guys to hear this again. This is a pretty powerful statement. When people are applying the theory of abduction or, something to that effect, stranger danger type of situation, even though we know, about I don't know, what is it? It's a high number. 85 or 90% of abductions are parental. Maybe it might be as high as 96%, if I'm not mistaken. I can't recall. I feel like it's in the 90 percentile of, abductions being familial or somebody that as opposed to a stranger danger. So that's something we're going to want to look at. But it sounds like, this is kind of deflating that theory, in my opinion.
Street and then left it open.
Never.
That's down video nosy and thinks that she knows everything, because I don't know what happened. I don't understand. This kid did not just vanish. He just didn't vanish.
But does any neighbors think it was a kidnapping, or like think their children are in danger?
So that was the very first thing I asked on Wednesday when the TBI came and sat down with me and talked to me. And I looked at her and I said, I get that you guys are being super quiet about this because it is still an investigation. However, if this kid was kidnapped, don't you think you might want to tell us so that we can kind of lock our kids up and, be safe or whatever? And she, instead of her, and I guess is, again, part of the investigation, she said, well, you should always do that.
That's interesting. Yeah, they have a responsibility. If one of their theories is Sebastian got kidnapped.
There's a difference in being extra vigilant because you got a loose person on the streets that are snatching kids versus, keeping an eye on your kids while they be kids. Obviously they just didn't want to answer the question. That's why they told her what they told her. But this is the part that we are getting back to that I wanted you guys to hear. This is pretty powerful. And I didn't pay attention to it the several times we've watched this video, but it's ringing in my ears right now. So this is a key detail for me at this moment that I wasn't paying attention to before.
And they never said Sebastian was kidnapped.
But there was there were no cars that came up their street and then left up their street and left. The only car that was ever seen was the one that was on Kellen, that parked on the corner of Stafford and Kellen for about 3 or 5 minutes, where the flashlights came towards it, backed up and left. And then the trash truck, and then Katie's SUV, and then the police, or then the school bus, and then the police. So there was no other car that ever drove up Stafford.
Does anybody find it a little odd that the car backed out and left the area as opposed to going up the road and turning around? I find that a little bizarre as well. It to me makes me feel like they didn't or intentionally were trying to avoid the cameras. And, again, that's just from my purview, from hearing this statement. It doesn't mean that it's true in any way. Do your own research, folks.
Was it a car that the lights went to? Or like an SUV or a car? Like what type of vehicle was it?
I don't know. I don't remember. It just the words that where I was told was unidentified car. I don't know if it was an SUV or a car or what. That was just what I was told. It was an unidentified car. And that was another thing, is when I asked the lead detective, I said, this car that was on Kellen, he was like, yeah, we already figured that out. That was an Uber. And I was like, no, the Uber was a neighbor on Devon that ordered an Uber about 5:30 to go to the airport. I know that. But the car why would a car sit on Kellen if they were going up the street to get the customer to leave? You don't sit there.
Coincidentally, at the same time, lights are flashing around the time.
Well, at the same time, the trash truck would have been through there. So you wouldn't have gotten that confused. Why would a car be sitting on a road like around 3:30, 4 o'clock Monday morning? It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, one thing I say, and it's the truth, the law enforcement is not obligated to tell the public the truth.
That's true.
We have to tell law enforcement the truth if we're being interrogated or questioned or whatnot, in a sense, because you could be, charged with lying, but they're not under any legal obligation. Morally, you would think they would tell the truth, but they don't legally have to. They can lie to the public, and they do. So maybe they're keeping things close to the vest.
I was just really surprised how I felt like he got a little bit defensive with me when I mentioned that I was a neighbor and talking to the neighbors about their surveillance. Because my thought is this, if you were to ask an officer a direct question, if he can't discuss it, instead of arguing with me, the response should have been, I can't confirm or deny that. I can't
Yep.
discuss that. We're still in investigation. Instead of him flat out lying about, or, like defending it and arguing with me, why didn't he just say, well, that's still part of the investigation. I can't comment on that. And I would have simply said, okay, you're right. I understand.
Yeah,
But he
absolutely.
didn't.
Integrity of the investigation. No comment.
That's what I would have done. I mean, that's usually what they do. Why argue with me and try to convince me otherwise? It's like he was trying to convince me. Leave that alone. Stop talking about it. That's not part of this.
Got you, Bobby. Is there anything else you would like to add that I didn't ask, or anything that you want to put out there that the public should know that we forgot?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we pretty much covered everything. I just know that, we want this resolved as badly as anybody does. I would love just for this to be over and him to come home. But I really just wish people would, around social media just got really nasty and ugly and started attacking us. One of our neighbors, I will say this, one of the neighbors that live close by.
Social media attacking and being ugly to yet another person that comes forward, and they say that they're not intentionally and willfully deflecting this case and causing people not to come forward. This is a problem here on social media that has got to stop, because people that can help these cases are running the other way because of the nastiness on these platforms. And we know where the nastiness on these platforms are coming from, and they're not coming from the true crime community.
They got the whole rumor about Katie having an affair with a neighbor. What started that?
Interesting. So that's not true. I saw that circulate.
Where in the world? Not only that, but one of the neighbors, precious sweet family. I know them personally. They are a great family. They got so attacked by this rumor that their kids started being bullied at school, saying that your parents are the ones that were swingers, started being called swingers. They started getting phone calls from people.
This is the nonsense on social media. Why does this channel not go down these rabbit holes with this? Because we do fact finding. We may talk about the rumor, but we are very clear that it's just a rumor because there's no facts supporting it. And as a matter of fact, whenever this case was breaking open, this was one of the questions that I had for a few neighbors, that I had friends speak to them. And there was nothing supporting that. Nobody had been over to their house. There was no weird vehicles that popped up whenever the stepfather was out of town. We knew this back and stated this back in April or May or something like that, that this channel didn't believe that was a possibility. We believed the opposite for the stepfather. And of course, there's been more information that has been corroborating that information, and as far as soon back as 2021 in Alabama. But at the end of the day, we didn't believe this. And so many people, especially family, not only family, their children. Do people care, for all these people that love to have an opinion and love to be hypocritical in their disdain for certain things and saying, oh, you're injuring these kids. No, you're injuring these kids. Look at what they did to these children at their own high schools. They didn't care. They had no care. And even if she was, wouldn't you rather have concrete information so you can start looking at a concrete person instead of manufacturing nonsense? And that's what it was. Somebody manufactured this story, and it hurt an innocent family. A truly innocent family. It's very disappointing.
People all over the country claiming that they were swingers.
Yeah, that rumor
so bad.
Not true at all. About
not
Katie,
that I know.
Neighbor. Yeah,
not that I'm aware of.
And so that neighbor was getting harassed then, huh?
bad. It was really bad. People just get so, I mean, I know that they want answers. I know everybody is just really wants answers. I mean, heavens, we want answers. You know, we're living in the middle of this. We want answers. We want all this to go away. We want the truth be found. You know, we want this to just be solved and be done with. But making things up and you know, coming to your own conclusion because you don't have an answer is not helping us at all. It's not helping the family. And I'm not here by any means to defend Chris and Katie by any means. I don't know them. I don't know anything about them to defend them. I'm just saying that making up stuff is only hurting our neighborhood, because now you've got people who are harassing us.
And just we're going to get into that in just a second. But what I find out with autistic children is some have certain proclivities that others do not. So some people don't. Some autistic children don't like certain foods, don't like certain activities, don't like doing certain things, while others do. So just because they're high functioning doesn't mean that going out is overstimulating. You have to ask the parents, because each autistic child is different. And I'm sure with you having an autistic grandson, I'm sure you understand that as well. The likes that he has doesn't necessarily bode with the likes of, say, another person that's high functioning autistic. So we'll get into that discussion in just a second. Thank you so much.
And neighbors wanting information and that kind of thing, and driving her all around. Now that the driving through the neighborhood has calmed down immensely, so that's good.
That would be driving like just regular, what, like YouTubers, curiosity seekers, just crime tours. Sometimes there's crime tours out there.
Well, I mean, there were, at the beginning, there were a lot of, you know, YouTubers that were coming through the neighborhood, and they would stop and get out of their car and walk up and down the street, videoing, taking pictures and whatever. And it was like a huge invasion of privacy. There's nothing we can do about it because it's a public street. I get that, but have some respect.
Unless it's, you know, everybody else can do it, but if Bullhorn Betty does it, it's called stalking, harassing, and gets a PO. But there were hundreds, as she said, of people that did it prior to me that go unscathed. I don't think they're applying the law equally and fairly to everybody. Just saying.
And then just local people, I guess, feeling like the police weren't doing enough, so they were going to go out themselves and drive, and they would just drive up and around and you know, just drive around over.
So locals, well, they get a free pass because they're taxpayers.
Like up and down and around the hill and that kind of thing.
That pretty much calmed down.
Yes, that's almost stopped. But we had two neighbors that were trying to sell their house, and neither one of them can sell it.
Oh, really?
Nope. They both took them off the market because they were getting too many.
So two people tried to sell their home after this incident happened, and they can't sell it.
Actually, one family actually had their house on the market before this happened, and then when this happened, their realtor just told them to take it off the market because they were getting more phone calls just being nosy than they were legitimately asking about the house.
Oh, wow.
And then the other neighbor on the other cul-de-sac actually put their house on the market right afterwards and ended up taking it off.
See, these are things people don't know about. It's interesting, you know, because it you know, might be devaluing the neighborhood, or people might like, hey, I don't want to move to a neighborhood where a child went missing and is still missing. You know, it has a lot of affects people, than not just, you know, the Proudfoots and Seth Rogers, but the whole neighborhood in general. It causes some bad things to happen with everyone. And man, I'm sorry that's happened.
I don't think anybody is going to be able to go anywhere until this is resolved, because I don't know anybody that would want to move into all this. Why would?
That is a true statement, but I wanted you guys to see something. I just saw it. So back behind her, you see these two cars back here, and you see the brake lights on a sedan and the brake lights on a truck. Okay. But you don't see any kind of window here. I just thought this was interesting to bring up because this is kind of what you would expect to see on a vehicle, a sedan that would have been out there. And that's not what we were seeing. We were seeing longer lights. But the one thing missing here is the glow off the glass that was also seen in the image, the dark image of the vehicle. So I just happened to notice that while she was talking. I've never seen this before. I never paid attention enough in the background of her before. And I thought that this would be an interesting perspective to show you guys, because we do have a vehicle in a picture, and people's we're talking about whether it be a truck, which you can clearly see with the radiant light. You can see almost the entire beam of the bumper. You see the back end of a car and what it would look like, which looks quite differently than what we have in that photo. So I thought this was interesting, and that's the only reason why I backed it up. Sorry.
Okay, I don't want to move to a neighborhood where a child went missing and is still missing. You know, it has a lot of affects people.
I don't know anybody that would want to move into all this. Why would you want to move into a neighborhood where a kid just vanishes?
Exactly, because those is the type
It's
of neighborhood
scary.
where you want to have a family, build your dreams, career, raise your children, and
Safely and securely.
yes, and I mean, I've been there. I've been in the area. Those homes are beautiful. I mean, I would love to have a dream house like that. Like it's nice, and
Yeah.
just can't imagine, like just a neighborhood that's never seen probably any crime ever. There's no
No.
crime in the neighborhood, right?
We had one incident many, many years ago that was resolved in one day, over and done with, and never had anything else. I mean, this is the kind of neighborhood that, like I said, I mean, my twins were born in that house, and when they were little, I didn't let them go out by themselves, but I would feel comfortable with them going outside in the yard, as long as it was like, just don't get in the street, because we live on the main road, and you'd have the big trucks and you have the school bus and that kind of thing coming through. And I would just say, stay in the yard. But I didn't have to worry about somebody coming up and grabbing them. I just never felt that. I never feared that. I mean, I knew my neighbors, my family all lived in the neighborhood with me. I mean, my parents lived there. My brother and sister used to live there. We all lived there together, and my kids would walk in between the yards to her house, and her kids would walk in between the yard to my house. My kids would go up the corner and play basketball with the neighbor kids, and they would all ride bikes around, and you just never worried about anybody coming in and doing anything.
But now people are kind of worried.
I don't ever, I mean, I'm not seeing kids out playing like they used to be.
That's pretty powerful stuff, guys. That's pretty powerful stuff. So I wanted to finish that up. I know we're going a little longer on this live than typically we do and stuff. Oh, thank you. Wow. 5 months. Thank you for being a valued member and love of the coffee club and a great supporter of this channel. Thank you so much. I don't understand why none of the remains being found haven't been addressed. Let me text Mississippi's medical examiner again. I don't understand why. Good point. I don't know. I haven't really heard, nor have I really looked into the other ones, because once they are you serious? I knew there was something wrong with that case. I knew it. And I just want to let people know that there was a case that I dropped early this morning, Joshua McCoy. Let me just pull this up and then we'll get into the conversation. Hold on. I knew there was something, the way that they were talking about it 2 hours ago. I don't know. Where was that found? Can you send me the article on that, DNA? Let me just see if I can make heads or tails of it here. That's the same story. Joshua's 6th birthday would have been Saturday. Nothing's being ruled out considering all possible avenues. The investigation is ongoing. I haven't heard that yet, DNA. So if you can send me something to corroborate that, that would be great. But I got to tell you that there's something not sitting right with Joshua McCoy's case. It just something didn't sit right. The fact that she took a nap at 1 o'clock and didn't wake up for 4 hours, that's not a nap. That's usually my night's sleep. And then it took an additional hour from the time she realized it and the 911 came in from a third party, not even the mom. Something wasn't sitting right with me on that story. They were still keeping it very close to this chest. I was just listening to it as I was having dinner. Oh wow. Yeah, there's something else going on there with that case. And I kind of picked up on, oh, Emma, it's nice to see you, my love. I hope you're doing well today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am doing well. I'm as good as I can possibly be doing. So sorry to hear that about Joshua, but he's just a little 4-year-old. Betty, the aunt has said it. Justin is playing a video of her speaking. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I knew something was wrong, and I was trying to be very fair and balanced about it. But when I read these things, I have a knack for picking up because I've worked with law enforcement for so long, not worked on different things, politically, different. Like I advocate for the children. We have this place that troubled children go to. It's called Horizon. It's like a boot camp for kids, and I don't like it because typically children that are having issues in school are, because it's because of issues at home. And if they're already being treated poorly at home, telling them that they're a troubled child. So long story short, I've worked with initiatives and law enforcement. That's what I mean. It's on a political level, not I worked for them or anything like that. I want to be clear on that because I don't want people taking my words out of context. But I've had a lot of law enforcement contact with these initiatives and things like that. And I know how wordy they get and how specific. I mean, I know that when they put out a statement, it goes through many hands to make sure that they're saying they use a lot of word salad. And so it's helped me decipher word salad. You know what I'm saying? And so when I start seeing this and start seeing the patterns of speech of law enforcement and the specific words that they're using, it triggers something in me to say, this is not the right wording that we're seeing or should be seeing. And one of those is kind of a Leilani Simon aha moment when they said that the information that another family member possibly had this boy was false. Not, they thought maybe a family member picked this child up, and then they found out that nobody had picked up this child. They specifically said false. That means somebody lied to them. So I'm very, very, I know what law enforcement, what words they would and would not be using and why they would be using certain terminology. And when I saw that, that's what really did, even though I didn't focus on that word, that's what really started pointing my thought process over to there's more to the story about this young boy. It's just a sad story. It's a 5-year-old autistic child. Many know that the statistics are very high on, 20% higher for parental abuse and or death when it comes to autistic children. And the fact that they failed to state how this child was found deceased. Typically they say they found them in a body of water, and just go on about how the tragedy is. There was something different about the story and why I tuned into that and decided to create a video early this morning. I think it was the very first video of the morning that I created. So somebody had sent me a little girl missing with an older man as well, and the little girl is safe. I just wanted to say, whoever sent that to me, I did look into it, and the little girl was found safe. So that's why I didn't run her story, is because she has been found and she is safe. So it's hard. It's hard when you see these cases, but when you've done these cases for so long and you've watched these cases unfold for so many years, because I was watching these cases long before I was ever into true crime or on a platform, you get a knack for understanding what's truly going on. Widespread false news. Coos County Sheriff stated no one is in custody at this time. So that's what they're saying. But if an aunt's already saying, I mean, it's just like Leilani's mother, right? Nobody was in custody in Leilani's case, but her mom said that she did it. Remember that? So just saying that This might be a state that allows them to sleep their heads on a pillow at night while they do an investigation. And we've dealt with that with the Leilani Simon case. So I don't think it is false news. I think we have to look at the bigger picture. Some people have information, and we should listen to the people that have information. Just because it doesn't come out from law enforcement, they are not the ultimate source of information, and they are not. The people that provide them that information are the information of the ultimate source. It's whether or not law enforcement allows that to be out. And I will explain even further. With Brian Laundrie, we were boots on the ground there, and we heard about the gun lying next to him. And we stated that not only were we called liars for months, 9 months later or 6 months later, when they decided to say that he had a self-inflicted pew wound, everybody was up in arms. Well, where did the GUN come from? And it's like, we told you guys day one, boots on the ground, that it was laying next to him. And I even referred to everybody calling me a liar about it. And it was months before law enforcement finally acknowledged it. So you have to, if you want the information, you got to obtain it yourself in some cases. And if you've got an aunt that is saying what she's saying, just like Billy Joe Howe said what she said, it doesn't mean that there's going to be an immediate arrest of that person. And I have proof of that. And I can identify a specific case that embodies that very statement. And it's Leilani Simon. So again, just because you did not hear it or you think it's wrong does not make it wrong. So please be careful and cognizant of that. Just because you don't think it's right, maybe you should be doing your own fact finding first, because you're maybe finding out you're the one peddling the misinformation. Just a thought. So getting back to Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, and the topic of conversation today is, was he overstimulated? Many people don't even understand what overstimulated means. And much like myself, when I first heard overstimulated, I honestly think, okay, right, but I think we should not be, I didn't confirm it. It was some comment in my chat. And let me just be very clear on this show. If we want to be friendly and stuff like that, this is the Bullhorn Betty channel. I don't take kindly to people telling me how to run my show, okay, or what comes out of my mouth, because I live in America. If there are mistakes that are made, we correct those mistakes. I read the chat no differently. Like I've read your comments, I read them just as is, and you guys can have communications, but what I do on my show is what I do on my show. You either support it or you don't. That's just, I'm pretty black and white when it comes to stuff like that. But I hope you stick around. You're a valued member, but I get what you're trying to say, but I was just reading a comment. So, and I've also asked for corroboration to that comment as well. And they identified the aunt stating on Justin Ferrall's channel a video that he's playing. So that to me is corroboration. We haven't watched it yet. If somebody wants to send me the link, I'm happy to play it here on the show so everybody can see what we're talking about. But just be a little kinder, understand that I'm a little rough around the edges, so to speak. And I just don't like people telling me what to do. So as long as I ain't doing nothing wrong, right? So, I get what you're saying. I appreciate the comment, but that's just kind of how it is with me and in the Bullhorn Betty channel. So hopefully you dig it. It is what it is. But we will get to the bottom of it, and hopefully can get to the bottom of it in short order. So just sit tight, and we'll try to get it corroborated as much as possible. But we do have identified cases where the person was absolutely 100% guilty. The family said they were 100% guilty, and no arrest or them being in custody was made for weeks. So, it is in some areas, it is the process. In Florida, that wouldn't happen. The lady would be arrested immediately. Okay. She would be, in Florida, it's like one of those things where you're basically arrested immediately, anything that comes to children, until they know what's what, So I don't, that's just how we do it here. So what is overstimulating? According to the dictionary definition of overstimulate, is to cause someone or something to become too active or too excited. But what does that really mean? Does that have anything to do with Sebastian Waindrake Rogers? Well, here's the situation. Many people believe because he had such an active day, and in all fairness, a child that has autism can be overstimulated at some point, and I'm sure many parents have unintentionally overstimulated their child, and they may have had a meltdown, they may have had hard time sleeping at night. Autistic children typically have a hard time sleeping. And so one of the weird things that I heard and I honed in on almost instinctually when I first heard it was the green shirt interview. And I stopped the show, and I didn't know. I was ignorant to autism. When we first brought up this case, I knew nothing. When it came to autistic children, I was honest with my audience. I said, I'm very, very ignorant to autism. I don't understand it. I don't know about it. And all the lovely parents, friends of family, grandparents and stuff, all started reaching out to me to start explaining autistic children, autism, and the fact that no autistic child is really alike. I could not find one key ingredient really from autistic child to autistic child, because they like so many different things. They hated so many different things. There were certain things. Each one of them had a different trigger. And that's when I finally realized, I started asking about video games, because I think it was several people that had said, even my adult, child, very high functioning, great person, but never would leave the home without their video game. If they went over to a friend's, they took their whole system with them. And then I started asking about the video games and stuff like that. And it was really, really interesting, because a lot of them have this, they find comfort in video games. So the next question was overstimulation a real thing, and could it really affect Sebastian? And in that green shirt interview, it was one key thing that the mom had said, and it went something like this. Now, it's not verbatim, and you might want to check out the green shirt interview yourself and get the context of the statement. But they were talking about what happened the day before. And as she was going through the day, she gets up to the time where it's about 9 p.m. and she tells her son to go to bed. And she said, and he did, ha ha, and kind of chuckled behind it. And I said, or maybe she said he went right to bed or something, but it was something about the way she said it. And I said, it sounds like she has a hard time putting him to sleep. And I had no idea, again, about autism. I didn't know that they had, some sleeping issues and stuff like that. And apparently that's common. I was unaware. But that was one of the behaviors, or one of the key statements that I identified really early on, that he must had some problems, maybe have given his mom a hard time about going to sleep, or maybe was up half the night and stuff like that. And then everybody was talking about this overstimulation. And I'm thinking, well, what does it do? Zonk them out where they can't get up for school? Because you're like, when you hear overstimulation, in my brain, it sounds like they're so exhausted, like they've been ran, like a hamster on a wheel, overstimulated, and now they're just like kaput. And people said, no, it's just the opposite. It amps them up, it winds them up. And I'm like, oh. And so when you start listening to the day from the very beginning of the morning, the spaghetti pancakes, the, call to brag with the family, then going and picking up the cousins, then going to BJ's and being around all the family, then coming home, putting the groceries away or the snacks away. I'm not sure which it was, maybe a combination of both. And then going to the video games and playing video games, and then going out to dinner, and then coming home. Some people started talking about this would be overstimulating for my child or my grandchild, or shut up, Jen. She knows I can't stand that. Oh, wrong one. She knows I can't. Hold on, I keep hitting the wrong one. Quit right. No, I'm just joking. She knows I hate that word. She knows it. It drives me nuts. Every time I hear it, I cringe. But that's when all this overstimulation, and I figured because I'm so ignorant about this overstimulation, or at least was, now I have a good understanding of it. It makes us look back. And I did have an opportunity to ask his father if he thought the day was overstimulated. And Seth told me that, he felt that that was a lot. And he left it at that. He didn't really say overstimulation, so to speak, but I did have an opportunity to speak to him about it. And it was a while ago. And if I recall correctly, I'm pretty confident he stated that it was a lot for his son. And the reason why that is important is because we had another beautiful writer in here saying that they didn't believe, that their child loved like Disney World and stuff like that. And so I'm gonna smack you. Somebody put a smack emoji in the chat for me. Give Jen a kiss too. I don't have time to find the smacking emoji. Oh, good gracious. And so this is where that whole conversation came. So I wanted to ask my audience because, you guys, some of you guys have children that are easily overstimulated. I know a lot of people in this chat that has been following this case. One of the reasons why they're following this case is because it hits a personal button for them in their own heart, body, and soul, because they know how much they love their loved one that's suffering from autism or being on the spectrum. And so this has got a lot of emotion in it. This has got a lot of emotion in it for my audience, because I didn't realize how many children out there really did suffer from autism or being on the spectrum. And it's a lot higher than I had ever known, honestly. Again, when I started this case, I was very ignorant to autism. And I feel like I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but I definitely feel like I have a better understanding than when we first started this case. And I hope my audience that were like me, very ignorant in autism, also has a better understanding of autism because of this case. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. No need for the cuss jar in several episodes. I did say the DAMN word in this episode. I do remember that because I was going to apologize for it. So then the next thing is how, what causes overstimulation, or how does it affect what causes overstimulation in autism? And so I'm doing just simple Google searches, not anything that is going to, anything deeper than surface level, just, simple stuff. And I do this for you guys because I want you guys to think whenever you have questions, you've got a place to go to get those answered. Overstimulation is also known as sensory overload. In autism occurs when someone with autism is overwhelmed by sensory input from their environment. Brain differences. People with autism may have differences in brain structure and function that make it harder to process sensory information. For example, they may have more connections between different areas of the brain, which can make them more sensitive to sensory input. Genetic factors. Research suggests that genetic factors may influence sensory sensitivity in autism. Sensory sensitivities. People with autism may have unique sensory sensitivities and preferences. For example, some may be sensitive to loud noise. We heard that he was sensitive to loud noises, while others might be sensitive to bright lights, smells, or textures. Difficulty filtering out irrelevant information. People with autism may have trouble filtering out irrelevant information, irrelevant sensory information. This can lead them to becoming overwhelmed by stimuli that others would find easy to ignore. Overstimulation can cause a range of physical, emotional, and psychological effects, including anxiety, discomfort, physical pain, irritability, sleep disturbances, and mood swings. Very important, mood swings. To help people with autism manage overstimulation, it's important to understand their specific triggers and sensitivities. And that comes back to the beautiful soul that had wrote, about their grandchild not having a problem going to Disney. It really does depend on that person's specific triggers and sensitivities. You can also create a supportive environment and teach them coping mechanisms such as deep breathing. So if anybody like me was ignorant about, what this overstimulation means, what it could cause, how it can affect an autistic child, it affects them differently. Somebody may not have an issue with loud sounds, but doesn't like the texture of steak. And the texture of steak might set them off and cause a meltdown. Another one might be getting their feet in dirt, while other ones can run around without shoes on. And you have another person that when they step in dirt, they will have a meltdown or a mood swing or some type of behavior that triggers them. So it really does and really is different from person to person. Let me just check one other thing before we go. That's really all I wanted to talk about today. We'll dive into it a little bit more, but I'm trying to see if I have anything on the mom of Joshua McCoy, and I don't see anything. I heard it's being discussed on Justin for Alls. So if he's still live, we'll be going over to Justin for Alls and listening to the commentary over there. But we're still just trying to decide and decipher, who was Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, humanizing him to the world and calling to action people that have information about this case or about Sebastian or his location to please start calling in. We need all the hands on deck. We need anybody with information. Please don't be scared of these bullies. Please step forward and do the right thing. Sometimes doing the right thing is one of the hardest things that you can do, but it's the most rewarding thing you can do. And I know with all the chaos, which it seems on the face to be settling down quite a bit, hopefully that's opening people up to come forward. We really want people to come forward and speak about Sebastian or any information to the people that were around him that might have had bizarre behavior. Maybe you know of a gentleman down the road, a neighbor that is exhibiting odd behaviors after this child disappeared. Call that stuff in. 833-TELL-DOG. You can also email your tips to tips@manhunts with an S.1. Tips with an S at manhunts with an S.1. Or you can call anonymously at 833-TELL-DOG. And I do believe there is, I don't know where my phone is at the moment. Dad burn it. I was going to read off. Maybe I've got it on here. Let me see if I can go to iCloud. I know there's one other phone number I want to give you, and it's a text line. So if you want to remain super, super anonymous, I would refer you to the text line, and the text line for your anonymity is 844-922-3236. Excuse me, and there's one more, and it's 332-252-3636. I think that's the one. If you want an anonymous texting, please reach out to 332-252-3636 with your information. It's all about bringing Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers home. We're doing it through the use of social media. This has been a social media case. It's been driven by social media. It will continue to be driven by social media because many people on here just want the truth. We want to know what happened to Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. And if anybody, and I mean anybody, has any information, you could be rewarded with $175,000. $175,000. So please, if you know something, please speak up. See something, say something. That's what it's all about. You know what? It'll come back to you tenfold, 100-fold. I promise you. Please step up and do the right thing today, and let's bring this child home. I just want to take a moment to thank everybody that has contributed today. Thank you, Dreaming of Blue Skies and Sandy Beaches. Melanie, thank you so much, love bug. Michelle is 5 months. Time did fly by. Our beautiful Emma, hope you are well. I hope you are well too. And the one we're about to boot and smack and yar, snacks. Love you too. Love you too. So I do appreciate everybody rocking it out with me for well over, I think we're past 2 hours now. I'm unsure. But thank you guys. I love you guys. Have a beautiful, beautiful Wednesday. TGIF. Let's bring this child home. God bless. Oh, I forgot I'm on here. I can do an outro. Oh, yay. We'll do our search one. All right. I love you guys. Have a great day. We'll see you later.